This is Siddharth Alwalia. Welcome to the 100x Entrepreneur Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Prime Venture Partners, an early stage VC fund led by Amit Somani, Shripati Acharya, and Sanjay Swami. Prime is often the first institutional investor in category creating tech startups in fintech, SaaS, healthcare, and education, such as Mygate, Neo, and Reco. To know more about Prime, visit primevp.in. Today we have with us Ishpreet Gandhi. Ishpreet is the founder and managing partner of Stride Ventures. He is a Delhi School of Economics alum and has worked with Citibank India, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, Yes Bank, IDFC Bank before founding Stride Ventures. Stride Ventures portfolio includes Stella Apps, Let's Transport, Avanti Finance, Creda. So it's time to dive deep into venture depth with Ishpreet. Ishpreet, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thanks for having me.
Ishpreet, going back in your journey in 2018, why did you choose to open a venture debt firm instead of a traditional venture capital firm?
Sure, Siddharth. So I'll actually try to answer this question in terms of relating with my background. But naturally, a venture debt was an obvious choice for me, seeing my background. You just mentioned about the banks I worked with. But actually, I started my career some 14, 15 years back with Standard Chartered, my first bank. I was working with the small and medium enterprises. Uh, this was typically companies up to 250 crores of revenue or $30 million. And the intent was basically that point of time it was more of a liability driven business which had a cross sell of assets. And the stint actually taught a lot of things in terms of dealing with small and medium enterprises before I moved to City in commercial banking. This was a short stint, and actually from the banking perspective I just wanted to see larger companies in terms of revenues, how the business movement happens there. And for a banker, it's always good to associate with corporate clients. It was at least the notion back in point then. And that's from there on in, Kotak hired me to take care of the multinational corporates vertical, which was typically companies above 250, 300 crore of revenues. And we started building with a lot of that was an actually introduction to private equity backed companies, because it was MNC. Our definition was multinational corporates who had establishments in India, as well as private equity companies who have subsidiary companies basically, but owned and controlled majorly by private equity funds. And post that, yes, hired me to lead MNC vertical for North and East. I was managing as a team leader for uh, 13 to 14 set of RMs before basically that's while doing with the corporate banking multinational corporates, we started dealing more with venture capital private equity funds. And what I realized was that when you meet these funds, their typical requirements was, though we can do larger associationship with you, why don't you fund our portfolio companies on debt? That is the working capital requirements for the companies which are funded by venture capital and private equity. Now, if you deep dive in the banking, as late as 2015, when I started dwelling upon why don't we start funding some of these companies who might be loss making, but can we support them from the banking perspective, whether it's a working capital finance or something else? And I think the perception at the bank level, at the top level, is always to get associated at the early stage and maintain some relationship, because you can catch them young and grow. As in, one company which starts growing, bank keeps on augmenting the support. And 2015 was the time when actually, while Sequoia was just entering a Bira, that point of time, that was a Series A transaction. Um, uh, Company's revenue was hardly anything for the companies to get a traditional bank line. So that was the first introduction to debt for venture capital backed companies for me. With the first lenders to Vira that point in time from Yes Bank, it was practically $1 million exposure, which then got augmented to a very large exposure over a period of time. And what we realized was that we were any which was backing founders who've had a great vision in terms of building businesses which are traditionally unique in itself. So if you remember the positioning of this brand, it was Kingfishers of the world as a domestic beer brand. And then there were foreign liquor brands like Ho Gardens, Corona. The positioning was, can we give you an Indian price point of a foreign liquor taste? And we actually, all these businesses, especially which is a little inventory heavy, has certain requirements on the working capital for inventory and other inventory and receivables. So we started with the working capital exposure, which got augmented. It gave us the confidence to look at more companies in that space. So we started building some of the other companies. Like we were the first bankers to lending card on a debt side, and then we did companies like Revigo, Securance, Leap. Leap is a pallet company based out of Bombay. They've grown well with TVS and Six Sense support. And the book did really well, Siddharth. There was not even a single day of delay of interest, leave alone defaults. And then IDFC hired me. This was my last stint before I started the fund. IDFC hired me to build the corporate MNC book for the North and East, at the same time building on the venture lending. And that's where we did these companies again. And the realization moment came in when you realize that actually you're working for a bank, and you can do as much for your companies, while the ecosystem is so large across banks and BFCs. And not only if you like a company and you can fund them from the fund itself, you can really partner with several banks and do not have a limitation with one bank for those companies. That's where actually the current partners in the fund, which is Avtar and Abhinav, I met them there in IDFC. So that was a common stint for us. Before I started thinking about the fund in 2018, as you rightly mentioned, 2018 end, I came out of the bank, applied for the license. It's not been a year even. July 19, we got our license from SEBI Category 2. And November, we announced our first close, and we've been building since then. I think we're proud of our companies which we have done, and we're working very closely with the banks, the endeavor which we started the fund with.
Awesome, Ishpreet. So, Ishpreet, there have been, venture debt in India for quite some time. How is Stride Ventures different from other venture debt firms?
Yes, so with due respect, I think it's a great franchise built up by all the people currently. I think Innoven, it started from Innoven, and SVB came to India, then Innoven happened. The franchise built up. I've been seeing the evolution of this since 2015, when practically the first AIF came in being as a venture debt fund, and it's grown strength to strength from there. I think the entire ecosystem has been built very well. Now, actually, if you see broadly, so that the ecosystem in India for venture debt, it's very underpenetrated. If you see in the West, it's a very mature market. There's a significant venture debt to venture equity presence, whereas in India, it's still very underpenetrated, right? So within, first of all, as an asset class, I think there's a great opportunity to work closely with founders, give them debt, protect their dilution. But within that, Stride actually typically do not only work on transactions which is equity funded. Rather, we are proud to say that all the companies which are funded till now from the fund are in between an equity round, where the company required more support. So it's not on the top of the equity round. So we actually distinguish ourselves in terms of working closely with the business, understanding their requirements, whether it's receivable financing, inventory financing, capital expenditure, for which they'll deploy equity and block their equity. Rather than deploying equity, we help them preserve the equity and use the debt for that. And that's where we do generally more of revenue oriented businesses. We also work very closely with the banks to create customer profiling for them, whether it's building their corporate relationships, because we've worked with corporate banking ourselves, introducing some clients to them, or naturally, banking support is very important here. If you provide the financing to an end customer to create a company product, or give them the capacity to buy a product, it goes a long way. So yeah, the differentiation is the entire team is banking background, and we totally work on the financing requirements of the company, from A to Z. It's not only about us lending. When we lend to a company, we get a lot of banks introduced and work very closely with the banks in order to create a large presence in the financial ecosystem.
And usually, you are present once a venture capital firm has done equity financing in the company, or you can come before that also, like uh, after an angel round or a seed round.
No, so we actually are right. We do look at an institutional investor to be on board for us to fund, and there are reasons for that. As I said, we are generally revenue oriented companies. So institutional investor brings in that discipline of the company to first of all, naturally, your capital, and second, the discipline, corporate governance, in order to ensure that the company has reached a stable aspect before looking at debt. Because though debt is quite attractive in terms of protecting dilution, it's an obligation to repay, right? So if the company do not have sufficient or decent cash flows at least to repay a debt, it becomes difficult for a company, in case they're only equity dependent. If tomorrow equity round gets dry or becomes difficult to get, I think debt can really be haunting sometimes. So it's very important, first of all, to understand the business requirement. A debt can't be substituted with equity, uh, and it's only for the growth stage or growth aspects of the company. So we are generally, you rightly said, we are generally around Series A, and come in post an institutional investor just for these aspects.
So, Ishpreet, help me understand, when the largest startup in India, I would call Geo to be the largest startup in India today, who has raised $15 billion for 25% of
Mm,
their dilution, and they are using this to get over debt, and as of today, they have become debt free.
yeah.
Right. So why should a startup take debt? Isn't it setting a wrong example by Geo that they are raising venture capital to ward off debt?
Yeah,
And
so no, it's a good question, Siddharth. But just try to understand from Geo's perspective, the reason why they've been able to raise equity right now is because debt supported them at the requirements, right? In the case of need, debt was there. That's how you reach a scale, and that debt has made Geo in terms of a particular scale. And now Geo can fetch valuations because it's deeply penetrated in the Indian ecosystem. So that debt played its role. Now it's the time to pay back, right? And that's how it happens. Our intent is never to fund a company for donkey years, right? Always a, so our structure of Stride is 12 to 18 months of debt, right, typically. So it's actually in case of need, when you require it. Do you only depend on equity investors, or debt can play a role? Can debt be combined with equity round? All of these aspects actually you have to think as a founder. And if it is decent portion and is not giving you sleepless nights, it's fine, right? So if a company that, let's presume, has raised 100 crores of equity and ends up taking 10-15 crores of debt, right, the business itself will be able to repay a debt. The problem lies when the fact that you end up taking debt more than equity, or probably the leveraging is so high that your repayment is an issue, right? That's what we first of all introspect before giving a debt. And I think founders are very conscious, right? They do not take debt for the sake of it. It should be taken in the case of a need. So today I think it's a classic example when venture debt has really further got a limelight in the ecosystem, because of the fact that naturally equity is not around the corner for everywhere, for everyone. It's only the existing investors who have dry powder are willing to back their companies who've been performing well, or even if their revenues have subdued, they're still performing, or they're still ready to back them. The problem is that the aspect is that why the company would not take a debt. So these are the reasons why they've come to debt. So debt might give them a support for the next 12 months, 24 months, when you have more certainties around and more equity up for grabs. And that's the time you do the repayments for the debt. So rather, Geo, which you have given as an example, is a classic example that you use debt judiciously when it's required in the business. It's not, it's painful. It can scale the business and it can be paid back, right? The way Geo did it.
so help me understand, Ishpreet. A company who has 150 crores in their bank from venture capital, why would they raise a 10 to 15 crore debt when they have to pay, let's say, 1 crore every month to repay the debt back?
No, so they would not take, Siddharth. They would not take. I'm saying the company who has raised 150 crores can afford a 10, 15 crores, 20 crores, 30 crores of debt. Reason being, they might have raised that much, Siddharth, but they would have
Yeah,
burned a lot of it. So if
yeah,
they are in a scenario that they might be around, say, 15 crores, 20 crores, 30 crores, right, left at the
yeah,
bank, and the burn is that much to support them for 8, 10 months or a year, that's the
yeah,
time when they say, okay, that 1 year can become 2 year, or that 8 months can become 16 months, 20 months of a runway through debt. That's where we played a role, right? Because that gives them a cushion to really go for or get the business back and then raise an equity round.
yeah,
And you know what happens, right? You've been in the ecosystem. Generally, the
yeah,
perception is if you have limited runway in the bank, you're not able to negotiate well.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So that's the point. You have the money with you then, and at least you can really buy your time. You can get your business back, and you can have a favorable valuations for the business. So it plays a very critical role. I think that's the undermine aspect of the debt. It's been seen as actually a company sitting with 200 crores would not take a debt. They should not take a debt, as per me as well. But companies, which a lot of companies are in India right now, are might be in between a 6 months to 18 months of runway. What they'll do? Do you see an equity round around the corner for all of them? No, they would not get it. Rather, most of them would struggle right now to raise a round, in spite of the fact doing revenues, right? At especially those valuations, what they would have done previously. So I think we have scoped too many companies to validate this, that there is an inherent requirement for us to give those companies debt.
And I agree with you. In times, especially like these COVID, when everybody is taking a careful look at their investments, and most of the money which is lying in dry powder with the VCs, their first priority is to support their existing portfolio companies, and rather than investing in new companies. So those companies which are doing revenue and which have 12 to 18 months left in their bank, they would surely go for venture debt.
Yes, that's one. Second, Siddharth, also, I don't think, and I'm being honest here, I don't think founders are very privy about how the debt can be used in the ecosystem, which actually all of us are trying to educate. So, for example, working capital financing, inventory funding, capital expenditure, you end up deploying your equity for that. Equity has a cost, right? So, in spite of the fact you might have decent money at the bank, there's no harm taking debt to support that reasons. Because if you end up taking debt and this might have to be repaid, but actually it's covering your working capital requirements, which otherwise you would have covered through equity, right? So the equity can be used for probably the burn or the growth of the company, while the debt can be used to take care of the working capital requirements. And these are various requirements for every business. Today, inventory has bulked up for a lot of companies, right? And they have invested in the inventory. It's getting sold, especially for the inventory-led businesses. Working receivables from a lot of corporates has dried for a while, right? It's in not today's case. Normally, also, if you see corporates, they take time to give receivables to startups. It's anywhere from 90 days to 120, 150, 180 days, and they end up waiting for those receivables. There are ways to get them financed and get them early and rotate the money well. So there are a lot of structural uses of debt. Venture debt should not be only looked at traditionally as a support to just protect the dilution. If you really use it judiciously with bank support and venture debt together, I think there are a lot of synergies.
So Shpreet, one of the key things which Stride specializes in is in bringing banks also on as a debt instrument. So can you help elaborate on that, and what does the interest rate overall look for a startup after you and the bank are financing them?
So actually, it's I can actually use it as an example from for a company which we have done just from the fund, which we'll be announcing in a couple of weeks' time. So we've got a bank co-lending with us at an combined interest rate cost of around sub 12. So our naturally financing is mid-teens, while banks are lower end of the spectrum. So there's we have signed some MOUs and done so partnerships with the banks to build the entire all case for the banks themselves. The reason why it comes natural to us, because we've done it previously in the 5 6 banks, right? So the intent is, can we provide an ecosystem for a startup to not only reduce the cost of financing with lending together with the banks, but also provide case in point for the companies to use banks for a lot of different things. So they can use banks for giving more power to the customers to buy the products for this. If you build in a finance product at the customer end, it helps them get more customers. There are ways to do it. If you build in not only finance at the customer level, but provide your stakeholders finance, like your drivers, your farmers, all the sectors have a lot of partners which works for them. If you give them finance, it helps them attach to a platform of startup. So there are a lot of things, use cases which banks at CEO level wants to do. So Stride is working very closely with them for all our portfolio companies to create that thing. So not only, yeah, you rightly said that we have been co-lending with companies, one which we have done recently. We're actually also building those synergies with the banks. In fact, we are also looking at foreign financing with some of the foreign banks. So we do a lot of foreign trade because a lot of companies these days have preferred Singapore and US as one of their establishments alongside India. So we are building cross border synergies as well.
And what are your risk versus returns profiles as compared to traditional VCs?
So risk, Siddharth, is there the two three risks in this businesses for a debt player. Naturally, is business running out of cash is the most important risk, right? Because if the business runs out of the cash, the repayment becomes an issue. Second is the other risks basically are venture capital related risk as well, about business not doing well in various forms. Founder problem might come in or something else. But yeah, basic problem for a venture debt would always be the startup running out of cash. Since we are not heavily dependent on equity investments to bail us out, we look at more of cash flows of the business, because we are not doing funding alongside an equity round only. We do independent rounds as well. So from that perspective, we are very very prudent about what businesses to fund, what kind of cash flows they are. Yeah, so the most important risk is that the business not doing well or the cash flows becoming problem, and the equity investors might not bail them. That's the risk which you have to foresee. Returns perspective, we place our loans at mid-teens. We have a warrant component for all the synergies we bring it into the ecosystem. That's traditionally anywhere from 15 to 20% of the debt amount, which is typically at the last round valuations or closer, if a company is raising a valuation mirroring that. And yeah, that's the return on the warrant upside which we can have. So it's mid-teens plus that warrant upside. So we typically chase somewhere around 20%, 25, 20 to 22% kind of IRR. It can be 25 depending on the case to case.
And the warrant here helps to leverage the upside when the next round or next
Absolutely.
higher valuation happens.
So we actually place our warrants, as I said, in the last equity round or alongside an round. So as the company goes progressive in terms of the valuations, the future upside is something which the fund can gain out of. That's warrant upside for us.
And that is not time bound. Once you invest in a warrant, let's say at the next round.
Life of the fund, Siddharth, maximum. This is what you can take warrant for. So yeah, if you have a 6 year fund life, you'll take the warrant for 6 years.
So among the hundreds of the companies you have seen since last year to this year, so why did only these four, Stella Apps, Rich Transport, Avanti, and Creda, if you can share case by case, they met the criteria which you have.
Yeah, so basically, especially Stellabs, Credar, Let's Transport, and the one which you just done, all four actually, because for the other company it was a different structure, but for all four these companies, I think we only saw from a potential perspective the market size, that what kind of market size these companies are catering to and what kind of dominance they have in this market. So I think all four of them by far are one of the largest in their own space, right? So Stellabs, which just recently, as recent as 3 days back, they have been awarded as the best two tech companies in India by World Economic Forum. You know, is the largest dairy tech player in India. They cover some 25,000 villages, have a deep-rooted penetration of 5,000 farmers. It's a very very unique cap table of a lot of impact plus non-impact investors with 13, 12, 13 equity investors, including the likes of Omnivore, Bloom, uh, Indusage, others. So yeah, I think they've been really cracking on this segment. Seasoned founders come from a very very strong experience doing a CXO level jobs at Wipro, IoT based company which is actually deciphering the quality of the milk. You name the largest milk players in India who take and procure milks. Uh, the quality and certifications are getting done by Stellabs. They're working on a Moose score, which actually would quantify the quality of the milk. So it's like an Intel Insight. There will be a certification of the milk, that what kind of milk consumption we are doing, what kind of quality of the milk we are consuming. So yeah, great founders, large market, one of the best in that space, largest by itself. Similarly, other players which we have funded, I think we've discussed briefly about Let's Transport earlier, but yeah, Let's Transport in intra-city logistics is one of the largest players there. Again, a combination of a good investor and founder with a big market to cover. Credar is two-wheeler brand. Again, only concentrating on two-wheeler use space. Uh, and coronavirus has really picked up the pace for the company, right? Because a lot of people are moving away from public transportation, and the cheapest source of taking or owning a vehicle is two wheeler is Creda right now, because they what they do is they buy it from the likes of Hero, TVS. They have contracts with them, refurbish at a centralized center, give a warranty to the bike, and it's sold out of Creda showrooms on the top of it. So it's like buying almost a new bike, the way they refurbish a bike with a warranty, which is actually an quite unorganized market in India, uh, and they're the largest player doing this. So we've actually, if you see, really good, and the recent company which we have done, which we'll be announcing soon, I think all of them are by far the largest in this space, is what we believe. And there are a lot of synergies with the banks which we have been working on for all of them in various forms, and all of them have use cases for debt. So I think these are the major reasons why we select them. And some of these companies where we've given the term sheet are again the same aspects. I think we've been very judicious about where to lend to. It's not about giving debt for the sake of giving debt alongside equity investors. It's basically understanding the businesses, understanding what value add we can bring on, because venture debt has not practically been seen as that value add majorly in the ecosystem. People think that it is more of protection of dilution. We wanted to bring more out of it. Interesting thing is we work very closely with the board and the company to decipher and do that.
So, as a part of your financing, you get a board seat always.
Yes, most cases we have it, and that's only actually that's only the synergies which a founder realizes, which Stride can bring it through the prior experience. Because for companies, the companies which we have mentioned, if we get financing partners for them, all of them will have a keep on increasing on the scale, right? And we are the best as of now in the ecosystem in terms of the previous experience to do that. They would realize it very well. So they believe it's a different discussion which happens at the board level when we talk about the financing build up for the company. Not again, so they're not specifically talking about financing the companies directly, but building the ecosystem as well for them. You were talking about probably a farmer loan or driver loan or some similar structures which can really propel the ecosystem for a startup to really scale on the revenues as well and have attachment to right kind of partners.
And Ishpreet, coming in 2020, how do you see, uh, the next set of companies who are going to become your part of the portfolio, the next term sheets? What are these companies like? What are the markets you're going to participate in?
So Siddharth, we are actually we're sector agnostic except deep tech, from a perspective of, so we can do SaaS, right? Because again, receivables revenues are a problem there from corporates sometimes. But yeah, as I said, we do a little bit of, at least the business should have a validation in terms of revenues is our only criteria. We've been actually looking at various sectors. So actually, as we speak, we have like four term sheets out, and we're looking at two more. So within next 2 months, you'll see some bit of announcements from us in terms of some of the transactions which we have already partnering with. And these are sectors, as you wanted to understand the sectors, these are sectors anywhere from education to fintech to agri-tech to B2B intracities, B2B supplies, healthcare. So these are 4 5 sectors which have been doing revenues. Right. If you talk about education online, if you talk about healthcare, if you talk about content, gaming, or if you talk about again logistics, which are essentials need, or B2B, which are doing essentials and PP, all of them have been doing revenues. Maybe not to 100%, maybe limited, but all of them agree as a sector we really like. Though some of them might have seen an impact, some of them have not seen as much impact. Yeah, so these are the sectors which we've been looking at, and I think the transactions will follow in these sectors soon.
And Ishpreet, if you can share your perspective on how the Indian market is positioned itself in the venture debt space in the comparison to the global market, and secondly, where do you see the Indian market vis-a-vis venture debt space in the next 5 years?
Look, Siddharth, it's a very good question from a perspective that actually sometime you need to change a perception. It is a very high risk business from a perspective of some of the investors, while some investors believe it's a low risk business, right? So there are a lot of varied perception about venture debt. I think if you really bring a scale to this business, India is actually very underpenetrated in the larger sense. If you look at West, it's a it has like 10 to 12% of the market cap to venture debt in terms of funding a lot of companies. So we see a huge potential in India. And I think if you've seen recently the traction in the past 2 3 years, courtesy to the existing players as well, and actually players like us have entered now. So we're trying to build an ecosystem which actually has an appreciation of this asset class. Since it's widely known in West, and actually venture capital private equity business in India has really evolved as well. It's a very mature market. You see seasoned founders coming in and making very good businesses, right? Who understands the ecosystem very well. People like you who have been building a lot of different skill sets of their own because you had a varied experience. You see a lot of people who are ready to take a chance and say, okay, I can build a niche here. So these are not really only the disruptors in the form of young guys. These are equally the mature guys who believe that there can be a space around. And I think debt can really be a use case. I wanna call it as debt only because of the fact that naturally it's venture lending back, but debt used well can really scale a business to a different level. Glad you mentioned the example of Geo, because every example which you see, the company who have done well have used debt well. So I think it has to be used from a perspective. I think there are a lot of notions about having sleepless nights and all that. Naturally, you should not take debt to replace equity. I told you earlier, but if you use it for your business very well, I think India can really, really, as the venture capital and private equity market keeps on growing, this asset class will keep on evolving very well. And next, I think you asked next 5 years, Siddharth, 5 10 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, so next 5 years, I think is positioned from that perspective. All of us as existing players will really step up and support the ecosystem. And yeah, I think it's very important to work very closely with banks. I think it will really go a long way for the companies to build a very scalable model. And venture debt can really play an important role. Lenders can really play an important role there.
I think debt draws the negative connotation from the likes of large players. Sorry to mention the Yes Bank here, but the stories which we have heard,
Yeah.
Yes Bank, Kingfisher, a couple of others.
Look, the banks happened because of Kingfisher, right? So first of all, you have to understand why the lending institution went under. Lending institutions went under either maybe a bad corporate governance, or basically the corporates or the companies didn't do well, or there's bad corporate governance at the company's level. So the institutions which you just mentioned may was a reflection of that, right? So if that is in place, which is I think something which we discussed, that corporate governance is very critical, and which you expect a high degree of corporate governance from venture capital private equity investors as well when they are on board. That basically, if that's taken care of, I see no reason why that would not be used well. If you're talking about flyers of the companies going down under financial institution because of that particular aspect, I think, yeah, that's where the challenge is. But I don't think that can give a negative connotation to debt. Uh, if I think, and slowly and gradually, I think we'll see it changing. That's our endeavor as well. That you see founders speaking highly about these things and really adopting it well rather than running away from it. So I think glad you brought it up, Siddharth. I think that there is a perception to be changed. I think it's seen a change because if you're getting debt today in these difficult times, right, and because of XYZ reasons of some of the investors not supporting, I think it's already changing a perception, because in need, if you're getting some debt, right, and extending your runways, that's the way you have to look at this.
Thank you so much, Ishpreet. It's been wonderful conversation with you, and thanks for sharing your experience and insights.
Thanks so much, Siddharth. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasant discussion, and all the best. You've been doing great work.